Welcome everybody to ComportSecure's webinar this afternoon. We are going to be discussing the how and why of backup as a service and DR as a service. In this about 40-minute crash course, you're going to be hearing from three of us. The first person that I want to mention is Eric Young. He's our cloud solutions architect from ComportSecure. The second person is Gordon Henwood, our technical partner manager from Veeam Software. And then you have myself, Hannah Coney, business development manager for ComportSecure. Before we get started, I want to address a couple housekeeping items. There is a question and answer section of the GoToWebinar. Please feel free to use that throughout the webinar so that if you have any questions that come up, we can answer those. And at the end, we will do a live Q&A with some of the most popular ones. And then if we don't get to yours, we will reach out to you directly following the webinar. The second point I want to make is that the webinar is being recorded so that if you would like to revisit it or share it with anybody from your organization, please feel free to do so. You will be receiving a copy of it after the webinar has completed. So I'm going to start out today with who is ComportSecure. I see a lot of people in the room who we have talked to before, but I also see some that we haven't, and it's always nice to give you an overview so that you have the big picture of who ComportSecure is. We are data center experts, and we have been for over 30 years. The most important part of what makes us wake up and start every day is that we are not just an IT solutions provider for our customers. We are a partner to help you effectively manage and protect your data. It is our job to make sure that we are helping you with the problems that you have. So not just implementing a solution for you, but seeing that through to make sure that it truly meets your business objectives. Some awards that ComportSecure has achieved as the CRN Triple Crown winner for the past 3 consecutive years. We're hoping to make that a 4th year here soon. We are a Veeam Gold reseller, a cloud service provider, as well as an HPE Platinum partner and preferred healthcare partner with them. The important piece there is the Veeam and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise partnership. Not only can we help you with your on-prem storage, we can also help you with the cloud piece of that. We can provide you with the Veeam on-prem as well as Cloud Connect, which we will talk about today, to make sure that the solution we are offering to you is an end-to-end solution that you can trust and that you have one resource to leverage for your on-prem or off-prem IT solutions. Now that you know a little bit more about who ComportSecure is, I want to address with you the 4 qualities that we feel makes up a qualified cloud solution provider for you to trust with your data and your solutions. The first quality of that is the highest level in achievements from a certification and knowledge level. We are the highest level ranked Veeam certified architects. We have Eric on the line today who's done that, and we have Gordon on the line as well who's from Veeam and can attest that that's a very difficult and a large accomplishment. So for them to have worked together to get our team to that point, we're very thankful for, and that really strengthens our relationship with Veeam so that when you have a question about a Veeam solution, you know that you can reach out to your team here at ComportSecure and we will help you every step of the way. We are also a member of the Veeam Executive and Technical Advisory Council. That is a unique qualification to have because it allows us to work closer with Veeam to hear the voices of our customers, what you would like to see and how you're using the products, and then take them back and converse around how to improve that for you. The second quality that ComportSecure has that is valuable to our customers is our Tier 3+ data center. Where your data is secured is just as important as what your data contains. So if your data is not being stored in a trustworthy, secure environment, then you're really not helping yourself with that checkbox of cloud solution or data protection. It is our concern and largest priority that anytime we receive data from a customer, we are protecting it to the fullest of our ability, and our top tier data centers allow us to do that. The second quality, which leads our third quality, which our second one leads into, is the compliances and the certifications in which we meet. Our customers have data from the SMB markets and SLED all the way up to enterprise, commercial, and healthcare. There's a wide range of requirements within those verticals, and we want to make sure that we can provide you with the assurance that your data is protected to those compliances. There's nothing worse than having an audit coming up and knowing that you don't meet those. So we want to help make sure that when we are protecting your data and we're helping you build a valuable DR plan, that you're able to confidently say that you meet those requirements. And then the last qualification that we obtain is the customer satisfaction and flexibility. We are not just a solutions provider, as I mentioned in the previous slide, but we're a partner for you to reach out to. You can have us be as involved and hands-on as you want us to be, or we can be as hands-off as you would like, whichever meets your organization's needs the best. You can enlist us to help you with your on-prem solutions all the way to the cloud for a complete end-to-end managed solution, or you can just engage us when you need us. If it's that once-a-year annual DR test, that's fine too. Those four lead us into the 6 customer service elements that we feel a cloud service provider can provide customers to do the best job possible. The first one is align and engage. This is important for us because we want to help you with your problems. If you have business objectives that are important to meet, then it is our job to help you achieve those so that you can spend more time focusing on mission-critical projects that save the company's bottom line money. The second service element is first-hand experience. We will not offer a solution to you that we do not feel has been tested and is going to hold its weight in gold. So any solution that ComportSecure and Comport brings to the customers, you have trust that we're delivering you a solution that will work for your needs. And along with that is the zero margin for error. It's a very stressful environment when a customer is in a DR scenario, and the last thing that you need is a IT partner who you don't feel can meet those needs to help relieve some of that stress for you and get you back up and running as quickly as possible. There's many different levels of human error, as our job is to mitigate those to the best of our abilities. We are solution driven in that our solutions are all provided to solve those business problems that I mentioned earlier. If you have a specific objective, whether it's to save money on your budget or if it's going to be to reduce the amount of time that your IT team is spending on keeping your DR co-location up and running, just so that you know it's available. If you voice those to us, we can help solve those. And then the fanatical learning. We are very proud of our teams. We're very proud of the skill sets that they have to offer, and they're there for you to leverage. And then lastly, the human factor. Technology is very important, and it takes dedicated personnel to be there to support your data and those solutions 24/7 by 365. We look for the type of employees who are going to treat your data as if it was their own. So now that you know who we are, what we value, and how we bring that to the table for our customers, I'm going to go through the ComportSecure Technology here and touch on what we provide from a solution aspect, not just pertaining to backup and DR as a service that we'll talk about today. The first item that I want to mention is managed Veeam backup and replication. And this is a unique aspect that we can bring to our customers because we are a Veeam cloud service provider as well as a reseller. So now, not only owning Veeam, but Cloud Connect, that's a cumbersome endeavor. If you're switching over to a solution, you're leaving a legacy solution and you're not really quite sure if you want to purchase Veeam, if you want to make that jump. So that's where we can help make that a little bit easier for you with our managed Veeam backup and replication solution. Not only can you have a flexible licensing option where you can add VMs or you can reduce them, but it's OpEx based. So your backup and replication software is going to be a monthly bill to you, and it's managed by Comport. So now you no longer have to worry about the Enterprise or Enterprise Plus or Availability Suite. We can help you with that on an OpEx basis without you having to invest if you're not comfortable doing so, or if it doesn't fit into your budget upfront. That is also inclusive of the agents, Office 365, Linux, and Windows. The second ComportSecure solution offering, backup as a service, that we will be talking about today with the Veeam Cloud Connect solution, is there for customers who are looking to meet that 3-2-1 best practices and really get a copy of their data off-site outside of their network. The third solution, DR as a service, that we will also talk about with Veeam Cloud Connect today for your replication needs. That's a very broad term, DR as a service, but today we're going to focus on it in the aspect of how to leverage that for a DR scenario and failover purposes. And then the last and final, ComportSecure Technology, is hosting. So our infrastructure as a service offering, our co-location or managed infrastructure as a service offering. Those three are a very wide solution offering in itself. They cover the needs of using your equipment that you already have or not wanting to refresh that hardware on that next cycle and move over to a cloud-based production environment. So there's a wide range of services there, and all of which can be managed with our managed services option. The ComportSecure Technology does not just offer those monthly OpEx-based services. The nice thing about our services is that you can always add on top of that another layer of your DR readiness assessment, your cybersecurity risk assessment, and testing for the human firewall, as we like to call it, to make sure that your data is secure and fighting against those cybersecurity attacks. So at any point in time, regardless of the service that you have with ComportSecure, you have the flexibility to use our team, utilize them fully for even up to 6 full days to work within your environment and help you become a true DR expert in your environment and put together that information in reports in a way that is usable for you to use. If you need to give it to your bosses, if you need to give it to auditors, we will make sure that you have everything in a way that's very usable and able to be readily available when needed. Just a quick touch point on our managed services for backup and replication with Veeam. I want to jump a little deeper into this. I know we just talked about it, but I really want to talk about the usability of that, because Veeam as an on-prem solution, being the leader in data protection and availability, it's highly desired, and if you have it already, then you're probably hearing about some of the new releases that have come out, like VAO, Veeam Availability Orchestrator, the agents that have been released, the Veeam 1. If you don't have Veeam 1 and you've been hearing about the great reporting options that come with that, this is where our managed services options can really come into play and help you get more out of your Veeam software. So on top of being a managed subscription model, you can at any point in time add on Veeam 1 reporting to your services. You can add on your agents, whether it be a Linux, Windows Server, desktop. The Windows desktops are a great chance for you to protect the road warriors that you have that are out there every day on their laptops, and you've always had a hard time thinking about how to fully protect them. If they left their laptop in their car and it got broken into, well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. We can help you out with that. The Office 365 agent, that's a very new and popular one, and so you are probably hearing a lot about that to protect that Office 365 environment, but also give you the ability to spin up your Office 365 environment if you cannot reach yours at a secondary target. All agents are supported with Veeam Cloud Connect. Very important point that when it comes to your on-prem data protection, how to replicate that to the cloud, and don't worry about that. We still can help you with your physical machines, and we will still be able to securely transfer that data to the cloud and have it readily available for you in the event of a disaster as well. We're going to start out with backup as a service today. The backup as a service model is designed for the data availability 24/7, 365, and you've probably heard this many times if you've paid attention to Veeam, because that truly is the objective here. Your data available when you need it. You don't need to call a Veeam expert to retrieve it. You can do a restore from your complete environment down to a file level restore at any point in time, and it's very easy to do through that Veeam console. The data is encrypted end to end. So whether you are you're backing up from your site 1 or site 2 to the data center, you don't have to worry about that. It's encrypted in rest and it transits. through that secure SSL connection. Lastly, you can use backup as a service for DR as a service for those non-mission critical VMs or agents. If you have RPO and RTO on that data that is a couple days, it's really not too important that you have access to it immediately, but it would be nice to have that option. Then you have the ability to spin up from your backup with ComportSecure into that hosted environment. So we've got Gordon with us today, who's here to walk us through backup as a service. He's going to talk to you a little bit more about how that's actually implemented and the technology in which makes that solution work seamlessly from your on-prem environment to the cloud.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yep.
Again, my name is Gordon Henwood. I am the Technical Partner Manager here at Veeam for the service of Comport and ComportSecure. And we're going to talk a little bit of how your on-prem environment is going to communicate to that backup repository that's sitting up in ComportSecure. The environment that you will be communicating with is going to be the cloud gateway. A cloud gateway is a Windows server that's presented by ComportSecure that's essentially a network appliance. It's going to handle any communication into the backup repository sitting in ComportSecure. Your backup server on your on-prem will communicate and send a request to the gateway server. The gateway server in turn will pass it to the backup server sitting within Comport, and Comport would then in turn send an SSL certificate back to your server. Now, once you have that certificate, the TLS connection into backup repository is now created. So now you will send your data through the gateway server all the way down to the repository that's sitting within ComportSecure. This is a great way to get your third copy of your data or second copy of your data that's been run on your on-premises off to an off-site location to follow that best practice of 3-2-1 of having 3 copies of your data, at least 2 different medium, at least one of them being off-site. So Hannah, can you explain how DR compares?
Yes, of course, Gordon. So now that you've heard more about backup as a service, you are probably wondering what's the difference between backup as a service and DR as a service with Veeam Cloud Connect. And the key there that I mentioned earlier is that the RPO and RTO is going to clearly define which solution is a best fit for your data. A replication is not backup. The data is stored very differently in order to meet those rigorous RPO and RTOs. So the data that's being backed up is sitting there. It needs to be hydrated before you can access that on mounted VMs for the hosted environment. Those replicas are sitting there live waiting to be turned on. So that's often why you hear it being referred to as hot data. The RPO and RTO with Veeam Cloud Connect replication is designed for you to fail over to that DR environment within 15 minutes or less. And once we have the continuous replication, CDP, with Veeam, I think everybody's going to be very excited about that. It'll be down to mere seconds. The failover capabilities that come with DR as a service are much more robust than those options with backup as a service, so that you're fully prepared for, in the event of a disaster, a very quick failover time. Being planned, being able to configure those ahead of time, and being able to test that is going to help alleviate a lot of that time that you've probably experienced in the past if you've had to fail over from a legacy backup or DR solution. All VPN connectivity is performed via the Veeam software. We'll get into those in a little bit, the network extension appliances. Those are facilitated appliances that talk to each other and allow you to save a lot of the headaches that would come from your standard VPN connectivity process. The failbacks that are built into DR as a service are much more automated and offer a greater ease of migration back to your production environment when the time comes. That is not a quality that you're going to receive with your backup as a service, because those backups are really designed to be restored versus failed over to. Replicas offer restore point. However, there's a maximum of 28 restore points available. So if you're looking for something that's long-term archivable, but you might need to access 6 months of data, 12 months of data due to your regulations and compliances that you need to meet, then backup as a service is going to serve those needs better than DR as a service. Gordon, I'll let you continue with DR as a service technology.
Sure. So with DR as a service, we're still utilizing the Cloud Connect service to make the tunneling communication between your on-prem environment to ComportSecure. The very first thing when signing up for this service is to create what we call as a hardware plan. That is creating your targeted cloud host environment that will run your VMs once it's failed over into ComportSecure. So that will be things configurable such as CPU, how much memory, size of the data stores, and as well as your network. So anything that you need to be running to sustain your environment sitting in ComportSecure, this will be part of that hardware plan itself. The initial communication goes out the same way. It goes out to the cloud gateway into ComportSecure. ComportSecure will send back the SSL certificate back, and now you will have the TLS connection into your cloud host itself. With this connection, you could do replication of your VMs on a regular basis, on a scheduled basis. You could fail over into this targeted host because it has the resources that's needed to sustain your VM or your whole entire environment. You're able to fail back from this environment back to your on-prem services once you corrected whatever outage that may have been caused by a malware event or faulty parts within a host. And then you can also restore from your replica that's sitting out in ComportSecure. So the data that's sitting out there can be used for for restored capabilities. So you could take those replicas that's sitting there on that repository in ComportSecure and restore from that point in time. You could also take that replicated data that's sitting at the repository in ComportSecure and create what we call a sandbox environment for you to do testing as well. So how do you fail over? Once you've done some replication, if there's some data that's sitting at the targeted host in ComportSecure, what you do is create a cloud failover plan. This is essentially the same as a normal failover plan within Veeam, where you could do a full site or a partial site failover. For the full site, this plan would give the start order of the VMs. So before the application started up, you want to make sure DNS and SQL and everything else that's depending on want to be started up in order for there to be a successful transition from production into your ComportSecure environment. So that will take care of that. Don't need to have a VPN tunneling, as Hannah explained. We spin up what are called a network appliance, extension appliances, which is 2 Linux-based VMs that will handle all the communication from your source host sitting on your on-prem to the targeted cloud host sitting within ComportSecure. And then we test. So as I mentioned before, with those replicas, that's data that's sitting in ComportSecure's repository, we can test against that information. We could take that data, start the VM using that data, using our vPower technology, and we're able to start that VM, ensuring that that VM will start when needed to. In a partial scenario, at least 2 network extension appliances get started up, and that's represented there with the arrows sitting on the host. That's where the communication is done. The communication is done through the cloud gateway to the appliance that started up at the targeted host, which was in this case will be ComportSecure. That creates the VPN tunneling from host to host. So there's no need for you to have a VPN set up prior to using this technology. A VM goes down in your production site, and it gets spin up over at your targeted site. But all the requests for that VM at the production site still need to be handled. Don't worry, the network appliances itself creates an ARP daemon that will fulfill any request to that VM and send it over to your replica sitting at your targeted site. Now, you could leave it in this state for a while until you get that problem resolved at your production site and simply fail back over to the environment and commit any redo logs back into production, and then you're back up and running. Or you can fail over completely into your targeted environment. But that's truly up to you. At this point, that will be your choice. So now that I give you a high-level overview of how the Cloud Connect services work, I'd like to pass it over to Eric Young, who will take you through our demonstration of setting this up in your environment.
Thanks, Gordon. I appreciate that. Hannah, can you make me presenter? Thank you. Give me just 1 minute. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my desktop. Gordon, can you let me know when you can see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. So the first thing, I'm going to run you through a couple of things that you can expect to do within the side of your Veeam console when it comes time to hook yourself up to ComportSecure. The first thing that you'd end up doing is we would provide you with a username and password, and you would add us as a service provider inside of your backup infrastructure. You can see here I've already got it set up, but I'm going to run through actually setting it up by going through the properties. So here you would enter in the DNS name that we would give you. Same with the ports. Click next. You'd verify your certificate, so it is a valid certificate. You'd also use your credentials that we would give you, which would be your username and password. I've already got them added, but you can just click add to add them. So here you click apply, and it's going to apply the connecting to the service provider. Now, if you had just backup as a service, you wouldn't see the hardware plans or the network extension appliance. But since this has got both DR as a service and backup as a service, we're going to see both. So here you'd actually be able to verify the size of your cloud repository. The next step, you'd be able to verify your hardware plan, how much CPU memory and storage that you had, how many networks you had, and how many public IPs that you have to use for a failover. Here's where you would configure your network extension appliance. That's fairly easy to do. This is click edit, and you select your host that you want to put it on, your resource pool that you want to put it on, your data store that you want to put it on, your actual network, and then give it an IP if you're using static IPs or an IP address through DHCP. You would apply it. It would go through the process of updating everything, connecting to everything. Next. Oops. Can you still see me, Gordon? It seems I got paused there for a second.
Yes, you're fine.
I can see it.
Okay. And then click finish. At that point, with inside your backup infrastructure, you'd be able to see your backup repositories. Now we have a cloud repository that we can create a backup copy job to. And that's fairly simple. It's just like creating any other backup copy job. You'd go in and create your backup copy job. I've got one created already, so we'll go through the steps on that. You'd name your backup copy job. I named it ComportSecure Cloud Backup, so I'll be able to differentiate my backup copy job from my other backup copy jobs or backup jobs. Here you would select how often you wanted it to copy to ComportSecure. You can do it once a day. Change this to once an hour, for every 4 hours, every 6 hours, depending on what your requirements are. You would click next, select your objects as usual, from your infrastructure, from your backups. Click next again. Make sure you select the ComportSecure Cloud repository, how many restore points you have. If you wanted to do a GFS job, you'd select this off and select your GFS jobs. Now, the one thing that you do want to do, while the data in flight is encrypted, you do want to make sure it is encrypted at rest by going to advanced and selecting off enable backup encryption and use your encryption password. Click next again. And if you're using a WAN accelerator, you would select your WAN accelerator information here. I am not with this test. I'm just using a direct connection. And then you would also do your scheduling. If you didn't want your backup copy jobs to run during business hours, you can go ahead and disable that, which I've done here. Click apply, and then click finish. Now at that point, after the first run, you'll see you have a backup. Underneath your backups, you have one that says disk, which is typically your local backups, and one that says cloud. And from here, you can do all types of restores, almost everything you can do from your local backups, except for the instant VM recovery. You can restore the entire VM. You can restore virtual disks, VM files such as a VMX file, restore guest files, or even restore application items. Now for replication, it's pretty much the same thing. You would just create a replication job. I've got one already created, so we'll walk through that. Give it a second here. So I named it Cloud Replica to go ahead and differentiate it between any other replication jobs if I was doing local replication. I have enabled separate the virtual networks because we are going to be putting these guys on a different network within ComportSecure. It is a private network to you and you alone. So we'd check that off, we'd click next. We would select our virtual machines and we would select them inside of ComportSecure. This is going to show up. We'll see what we have here and go from there. Next again, the host that we're going to be replicating to is Comport Delivery, and we'll see what our storage is over there. This is where we go ahead and tell that this is the source virtual VLAN that we have on our local side and the target on the ComportSecure side. This will always be provided for you. You just would have to hit the browse button and see what we have for your networks available. Next again, and this is where we do our job settings. We're going to keep our local metadata, the replica data local for now. We can add a suffix if we want to, and how many restore points that we do want to keep. Again, the data transfer, since I'm not using a WAN accelerator, it is going to go ahead and be direct. If I had a WAN accelerator enabled, I would select this and then pick my source WAN accelerator on my side, and then pick the target WAN accelerator on the ComportSecure side. And then the scheduling again is the same. We can pick when we want it to run, click apply, and then finish. So now one of the cool things is that after it runs through the first time for replicas, you're going to get underneath replicas, you'll have what's sitting in a ready state for you. Now, Gordon did say that we can do some restore items from here, so we can go ahead and restore, typical Microsoft Windows, or if this was a Linux machine, we could restore Linux files. So it does give you the ability to do that, to restore from a replica if for some reason, the replica had a newer file or the current file that you're looking for that your backups didn't have. So now the next question is, well, how do I fail over to ComportSecure? Well, you create a backup failover. You create a failover plan, and in this case, you just you right-click here and click a failover plan, and you make sure you select the Cloud Connect version and not your regular version here. I do have a failover plan created, so let's walk through that settings. Now, it is taking a minute because one of the cool things about Cloud Connect and the failover plans is this failover plan that I'm creating, while I do have it on my side over here in our lab, it is being stored over in Cloud Connect over in ComportSecure. So if, for example, this entire environment gets wiped out, my failover plan is stored in ComportSecure, so I can run it by logging out into a portal. So I've named it Cloud Failover Plan 1 just because that's, keeping up with that naming convention of keeping the cloud in there. So we click next, we select our virtual machine like we normally do, and we click add VM, and it's going to show us what we have available for cloud replicas. I only have one up there right now. It is the Veeam server inside of my lab. Click next. This is where we select our default gateway. This is the information that the NEA requires. So when we do a partial failover, a partial site failover, the NEAs act as basically routers. It's going to route the traffic from my production environment into ComportSecure over a layer 2. So when this guy is up and running inside of ComportSecure, it needs to know that that default gateway, which is now being mimicked by the NEA, is my default gateway, so that way all traffic can be routed correctly. Click next. Now, if we were doing a full site failover, this is where we can assign a public IP. So we go ahead and edit that by pulling up the edit button. We pick which VM that we're going to be using. The public IP address is provided to you from ComportSecure, and then the internal IP address is the internal IP address of the virtual machine that's being replicated. The neat thing is that we can do port natting here, PNAT. So if I had multiple virtual machines but only one IP address, I could port NAT that public IP address to different ports. In this case, port 1239 is the Veeam1 reporter port, so I got it pointed to the Veeam1 server. Now, if I had like a terminal services or another IIS server or something like that, I could change that port number. So if it was a web server, I could change it to port 80, point it to a different IP address for a different virtual machine within the replica, and point it to port 80. So we can do port natting there, is kind of save on IP addresses a little bit. And then we would click next and finish. And now the cloud failover plan is complete. Another way that we can fail over as well is, just click on ready where our virtual machine replicas are, and right click it and select failover now, or we can do a planned failover, or we can add to a failover plan here. If we need to fail back, we can fail back here. So earlier I was talking about the failover plans being stored within ComportSecure. So you're going to be provided with a username and password, which is the same that you'd use to connect to Cloud Connect within inside of Veeam. And we do have a web address for our portal for our customers. You would type in your username and password. I don't want to save that. And there's our cloud failover plan. We can click start. So if the entire production environment goes away, we can still declare a failover, click start, and the failover will start for us. I think that's about it for the demonstration. Hannah, is there anything that I missed, or Gordon?
No, that was perfect.
To me.
Great. I will give you back presentership.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Awesome, thanks. So now that you have a better understanding of the replication failover process and how that works compared to a restore directly from a backup, you probably have some questions into the application of your environment and how you could leverage that to help you facilitate quicker DR recovery and data availability. If there's any questions that you have, please feel free. If you haven't put them in the question box already, we have a few that we're going to address in a moment. Feel free to email them over to myself, or if you have an account manager you're working with already, you can contact them as well. My email address is in the slideshow here. I'm going to leave this screen up at the end so that in case you need it, you can write it down and have access to it. If you would like to test the backup as a service or DR as a service offering in your environment, we can do that as well. So if you would like to work with Eric hands-on and Gordon to get that optimized and test that process, we can do that with you, and you can test that with a subset of your VMs. Thank you, everybody, for hopping on. We're going to go through a few questions right now, and then, like I said, I'll leave the screen up for a little while, and if anybody else has more questions, feel free to put them in the question box or email us. The first question, I'll throw these out to Eric and Gordon here, and you guys can answer them if you want to take turns or however you want to handle it best. The first question, which was an interesting question, is when configuring a DR plan, can those DR plans be kicked off in a designated order without manually being done?
Yes, it can. That will use our product called Veeam Availability Orchestrator. That will automate the process. Without use of that tool, you will be a manual process of how that's going to start. And that's by kicking off through the Cloud Connect portal your cloud failover plan. That will include, again, the delays that you need to have the environment fully stood up, sitting within cloud targeted hosts at ComportSecure.
So yeah, let me add to that real quick. So within your failover plan, if you have multiple virtual machines, obviously, you're gonna have like a Active Directory server or some SQL servers. You can set up the order in which those machines are powered on and the delays in between them. So you get your Active Directory machines powered on first, give like a 4 or 5 minute delay, have your SQL servers powered on, give a 4 or 5 minute delay, and then your web servers or however it is that you would normally power up your environment from a dead stop.
Great, awesome, thank you. The second question that came across is that if my hardware fails and I have to fail over to a ComportSecure hosted environment, do I need to fail back? I guess I'll start this answer out by stating, no, you don't need to fail back. I'm assuming that the question is in regards to if you don't want to replace your hardware. And no, you don't have to replace your hardware. That's one of the glorious things about DR as a service, that if in that time period you realize that you would rather continue to work your production environment from a hosted solution with ComportSecure, you have the option to do that. And then if you need any help through that process or forward and in the future, we can help you with that as well. Anything you want to add, Eric or Gordon?
No, I think you got that.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then the third and final question that we will answer is there an ideal bandwidth for backup and replication, and how, and it gets the context of this one, and how to handle your short backup windows?
Ideal bandwidth will depend.
Gordon, you take it. Yeah, I'll add to it. Go ahead, you take it. I'll add to it.
Well, that depends on what you already have set up from site to site, how much data you guys are moving from site A to site B on a daily basis. So it will have some math that will be involved to see what we need to leverage as far as network speeds to send that data across. The good thing about the replication, we take advantage of CBT. So the change blocks will be the only thing to be sent across the wire upon any differences between day 1 and day 2. So that will reduce the needed bandwidth to send your data across. So to be clear, the very first replication job, it will be a full native snapshot of that environment sent across the wire. And again, we have to do some sizing to see how much network bandwidth we will require to send it across. But once that initial replication went to site B, then again, it's a change blocks. Now, if our initial replication going across is really large, we can do seeding. So we can send it off to a USB 3 device, mail it over to site B, and then we can actually seed the data across with a CBT differences itself. Eric, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I just want to add a couple of things to that. So if you are doing replication and backup as a service, if you already have a backup copy job sitting within inside ComportSecure, you can source that original replication from your backup copy job, so that way you're not sending stuff across the bandwidth, across your bandwidth. That's one thing. The other thing is that we can use WAN accelerators to help with that on the amount of data that's sent out. So one of the neat things is that when a backup copy job happens and we're sourcing your backups as is to copy your backup copy job over, we're actually targeting the backups. We're not targeting the production environment anymore. So if your backup copy jobs just need to run during the day at a lower bandwidth, some throttling in there, we can do that. But we're not targeting your production virtual environment, whether that's VMware or Hyper-V. So the virtual machines aren't going to feel any effect during that the initial backup copy job or any backup copy job. It's only going from your local backup repository through your proxy server and then out to the internet that way. So that helps alleviate some of the pain of a backup copy job during the day.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I think that will conclude our question and answer session. If there are any more that come in, we will reach out to you directly. And feel free to reach out to us if you would like to schedule a time to walk through the backup as a service or DR as a service, a trial environment. Thank you, everyone, for hopping on. Thank you, Veeam. Thank you, Eric, for the time today. And I will leave the screen up, like I mentioned, so that you have contact information. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.